this is last class we were discussing about bearing reliability. So I have a couple of slides, and then what we will do is then I will hand it over to Sachin Alia, and he will talk primarily about how to select a bearing using a catalog. So mostly whenever you buy a bearing, you'll use one of those catalogs and try to find out what would be the way to select a good bearing for your application. So you'll start with some preliminary information. We'll walk you through how to basically have some preliminary information and then select your bearing accordingly. So reliability, basically what we know is for reliability constraints, what you do is you need to have a distribution. And typically with reliability, what happens is distribution is right skewed. So it is actually something like a Weibull distribution. So there are two ways to model typically a skewed distribution. One would be what is it called, log normal. The other is Weibull. So what I will do is I'll actually just show what Weibull looks like. So that way you have some idea of how Weibull distribution looks like. So Weibull distribution is something like this. This is how Weibull distribution looks. So you, depending upon your parameters, there are two basic parameters, alpha and beta. Alpha is a shape parameter and beta is a scale parameter. And you can have any distribution. So you can have something like this. The key thing is it starts from so basically it's something like this. So if x is greater than 0, it has some value, and if it is less than 0, it is 0. So typically what happens is, if I want to show you this, let me just first show you what the factor looks like. So this is the Weibull distribution for bearing reliability. So basically, if what we do is we identify x naught as the minimum life. So x is basically defined as L over L10. R is reliability. So reliability is basically defined as exponential of x minus x naught, theta minus x naught. So x is nothing but a life measured dimensionals variate. So basically it's a function of L divided by L10. L10 meaning what would be the life for 90% reliability. And that is what a lot of bearing manufacturers quote. They will quote this is the life for 90% reliability. Right. And then theta is a characteristic parameter which corresponds to 63.2121 percentile value of a value. So basically, this is a characteristic parameter which is 63.2121, which I think corresponds to probably plus minus sigma. We'll have to check. Okay. And B is a shape parameter which controls the skewness. So basically, this is what I showed you is the actual function looks something like this. This is the function fx, which is b divided by theta minus x naught, x minus x naught b1, and exponential this. The thing is that what we want to do is we want the probability distribution to be such that this value turns 0 if the value is less than x naught. X naught is the guaranteed minimum, guaranteed minimum dimensionless value variate. So minimum L by L10 is guaranteed, X naught is guaranteed. And then you basically figure out what will be the reliability. Now, a Weibull distribution, if you want to understand, has a mean and a standard deviation as you have for a Gaussian distribution, a Poisson distribution function. All these probability distribution functions have some mean and some standard deviation. And the way to find that would be basically x, fx, and whatever the limits of the function would be. So in this case, it varies from x0 to infinity. So if you really want to find out, I don't know if there's a closed form solution, mu is mathematically defined something like this. Let me just do command plus plus. So this is x and this is the fx. So for the actual definition is, if you really want to understand, is basically x, let me say x fx. This is the definition for statistical distribution for any probability distribution function. If fx is the probability distribution function, These are the limits. Your mu is nothing but the value. Mu is equal to the expected value. So mu or the mean is the expected value. Is the expected value, which is defined by following equation, expected value. Right. So these are some basic statistics which you are supposed to know. I'll not go in detail there, but what I will do is I'll basically give you this information. Mean is this, standard deviation is this, and this standard deviation, since it's actually there does not exist a very closed form solution. So people use something called integral tables, and out of that integral tables, these are the functions. These solutions exist in a form of gamma function. And you can look up these gamma functions. There are tables for these gamma functions. And these gamma functions are defined something like this. This is the definition of gamma function. So these are some basic things. Any reliability modeling needs some sort of a probability distribution function. Right. So what I will do is I'll not go full screen because I want to switch between this to Mathematica. So what I will do is I'll actually reduce this little bit so that you have better visibility, and I'll blow this little bit. Okay. Maybe a little bit more. Okay. Okay. Right. So basically what the problem says is construct the distributional properties of a 0 to 30 millimeter deep groove ball bearing. If the Weibull parameters x naught, which is the minimum value of the variate, is 0.02, theta minus x naught is 4.439, b is 1.483. Find the mean, median, 10th percentile life, standard deviation, and coefficient of variation. So first thing is, how do we find the mean, right? So the definition for basically equation for mean is mu x, x naught, theta minus x naught, tau, 1 plus 1 over b. So what we do is we'll just go ahead, use Mathematica nicely. So let me just go ahead and use Mathematica. Okay. So these are the values. I have been told that my x naught, sorry for interruption. I'll just blow it a little bit bigger so that you can see it clearly. So x naught is given by 0.02. Theta is 4.439 plus x naught. I have changed it because it works differently in Mathematica. You have to tell it by defining the variable first. B is equal to 1.483 and R is equal to 0.9. That's the reliability factor. So cell, and then I want to find what will be the first thing. What it asks is it wants you to find what will be the mean. So let's just find the mean first. So mean is nothing but mu x is defined by x naught, theta minus gamma 1 plus b. So since all the variables are already given, what I do is I run this cell and it gives me, okay, sorry, one second. Let me just do one thing. I would need to unset all the values. Just give me a minute. There are some values which are already there, so that's why it is acting up. So let me just unset it first. Let me clear all the variables. Once I clear the variables, it should be fine. Any questions? Okay, let me do this. And then if I do, I'll get the right answer. So basically mean is nothing but 4.03295. Let's go and see our solution. Our solution also says 4.033. 4.033. Then what it asks is find the median dimensionless life, which basically means your reliability should be 0.5. That's what median dimensionless life means, right? So let's say my R is equal to 0.5. So basically I have to find out what is my median life, x 0.5. I'll use this equation right here. If my R is equal to 0.5, let me run again. I run this, shift enter, R is 0.05. Let me run this equation here. So this should be, this is my dimensionless life. Let me just blow it up for your reference so that you can see it clearly. So basically it says x.50 x0 theta minus 0 1 minus r, where r is equal to 0.5. Let me just go ahead and do it for you. So if reliability, that will give me the median life. So that is 3.486. That's exactly what you get here. Now what is asked is find out the 10th percentile value of dimensionless life when reliability is equal to 90%, right? So what I will do is I'll go back, switch to 90 again. What do you think it should be there? Can somebody tell me the guess? If I do 10%, 10% basically means what is the reliability? 90%. What will be the life for reliability? What is the value of X for 90% reliability? Anybody? Can somebody tell me that? What should be the value of what should be the value of if I put R is equal to 90%, what should be the value of this variate X? X is L divided by L10. What does L10 mean? You can type in the comment box. Anybody? So at 90% reliability, what do you think the value of X would be? X is defined by L by L10. And L10 is the life at 90%. L10 is the life for 90% of the bearings. Any guesses? 1. Very good. So that's what we want. So basically, if I go ahead and find it out, if I check it out, I should get this. Okay. So let me put this and see what do we get. We should get very close to 1. Ideally 1, but I don't know if ideally 1 or 9.99338. The ideal value should be 1. Okay, that's what you should get. And then let's try to do this, figure out what would be the standard deviation. Standard deviation, again, let's do the same thing. Standard deviation, I will have this. Let me blow it up for you. Blow it up for you. Okay. Again, something went wrong. So let me go ahead and unset it first, and then we'll do it. Let me unset it. Right. Unset. Do this. And find out what will be the standard deviation here. 2.753. Let's go check whether this number is right or not. Yeah, 2.753. And the coefficient of variation for dimensionless life is sigma x by mu x. So this basically finishes some of the reliability issues. Now, if you have any questions, just ask me before I move on to, before I give the rights to Sachin for basically covering the next portion, which is selection of bearings using the catalog. So if you have any questions, please go ahead. Anything which you did not understand either in the reliability or bearings in general, you guys have. I'll answer it, and then I will. Then we will move on to Sachin for the rest of the class. He will basically walk you through how do you do the bearing selection using a catalog. Any questions? Any questions? Any concerns of any general kind about bearings in general? So if not, then I'll ask Sachin to take over. He will basically walk you through how do you do bearing selection. Sachin, the floor is all yours. You can go ahead and take the share your screen. I'll unshare this.
Thank you, sir. So hello guys. So we'll be covering a bearing selection process. So every day in life we have to select some bearing for each and every application where the rotation of the parts is required. So for that we'll go for a brand called SKF, which is a leading manufacturer of the bearing. So they have developed a specific tool for selecting the bearing. So they guide us step by step how to proceed for various parameters which we have to enter, various bearing properties which we get from their catalog. So this is the basic selection process. So first we will have to examine our system, like performance and operating condition of the system. So what are the inputs for the bearing selection which we get from our system? Then we'll go for the bearing type, what type of bearing we should use, what is the arrangement of our application. Then we'll move for bearing size, which size should be fit into our system, which will be the adequate size. Then the lubrication properties, then operating temperature and speeds of the bearing, then bearing interfaces, bearing execution, sealing and mounting, like what type of sealing should we use on the bearing. So all these types we should select, and then finally we'll get our bearings. So coming to the next thing, so some things which we need to pre-examine our system. So these are bearing types. So for selecting the bearing type, we should consider a lot of things like space which we have in our system, how much big bearing we can accommodate or how small can we accommodate, what is the shaft diameter, what is the housing diameter, what are the kinds of load which are coming to the system, then speed which are required for the rotating parts, peak loads, then vibration if there are any vibration, misalignments, and the mounting accessibility, like how easily we can mount the bearing, or if some application requires frequent bearing changes, so how easily we can dismantle the bearing and mount the new one. Then comes the next, precision required. So like if you want to have a position control, we have to consider run out and speeds. So position precision required basically is governed by the fits and tolerances defined by the bearings. So we'll get it done when we go for the tool. The next thing, the bearing size, which we have already discussed in the bearing type. So it is also defined by required life, what are the dynamic loads, what are the static loads, what is the viscosity of the bearing, and all. Coming to the next, which is lubrication. So lubrication is also an important part of the bearing, because lubrication provides us seamless or smooth operation of the bearing. So the lubricant has its life. So after some time, the lubricant has to be changed. Otherwise, the bearing starts to wear off very early. So the lubrication life is very important. Then re-lubrication interval. So after how much hours of operation we should change the lubrication, that is important. The third thing is environmental. Is that lubricant environmentally friendly or not? That also we should consider. Then operating temperature, like what temperatures will be of our system where the bearing is placed. Based on that, we should select the lubricant, because every lubricant has their viscosities dependent on the temperature. So if the temperature range is below or above their specified range, it may result in the loss of their lubrication properties. Then finally, the sealing type. So sealing types comes play when we have say we have to mount our system in some neat and clean place, and the other requirement is suppose we have a dirty place like very old workshop. So the cleanliness in the environment decides which type of bearing we should go for, because sealing protects the lubricant from contamination. So we have to select the sealing type as well with careful. So coming to the mounting, so as we have discussed, ease of replacement, procedure for the replacement, and tooling requires for the replacement. So these are the things which we can consider for selecting the particular bearing. Then finally the fits. So ease of mounting and replacement also comes in the fit, because there are like you have studied three types of fit: loose fit, transition fit, and interference fit. So those kind of fits governs how we can easily mount the bearing, how we can easily remove the bearing. And speeds are also governed with the fits, because the wrong fitment results in slight runouts in the bearings, like vibration in the bearings. So that is also governed by the fits. So coming to our first step, so which is I'll go through just these slides so you can have a just preamp of the tool. So we will first have to make your selection, which type of bearing are we going to use. Okay. Then we'll move to the type and arrangement, select calculations and etc. Okay. Then operate, then so these are the types of bearings which we have to use. So we can select any one of them based on the application. We'll be coming to that in a bit. So there are majorly two types of rolling element bearings. First one is ball bearing, as you all know. So bearing, ball bearing has like multiple type of bearing in them. So first one being deep groove ball bearings. So these are who most widely used ball bearings. So these have good radial load capacity, also axial load capacity, and their axial load capacity are both in both directions, so they can sustain loads in both the direction. Application of these bearings are pretty much in every field, like flaps, jet engines, transmission, or gear segment. Then coming to the self-aligning bearings. So wherever the application require a slight misalignment in the shaft. So suppose your shaft has some loading conditions which acts as a misalignment to the shaft. So in that case, we have to use a self-aligning bearing, because this setup can make for those alignments. It can adjust the misalignment according to the requirement. Then next is angular contact bearing. So as we know that these deep groove bearings, they can sustain axial loads, but not that much amount. So coming to the angular contact bearing, they have a very good axial load capability. So they comes in single row or double row. So single row angular contact bearing works in a unidirectional way. So they can sustain axial loads in unidirectional way. And the double row angular contact bearing can sustain axial loads in both the directions. And if your requirement is particularly axial loading condition, so we can go for a thrust ball bearing. Then coming to the roller bearing. So here the rolling element is a roller. So these are also most of the popular ones are of four types: cylindrical roller bearings. So these use line contacts as opposed to the previous one, which was ball bearings. So they use point contacts. So their loading capacity is a bit lower as compared to the roller bearing. So the roller bearing have a line contact between the outer race and the inner race. So the loading capacity of roller bearings are superior to the ball bearings. Then they can have a very high radial loads, but they have a limited amount of axial load which they can sustain. So the next is spherical roller bearing. So they are similar to the self-aligning ball bearing. So they can accommodate a slight misalignment in the shaft. So they are also good at accommodating high radial and moderate axial loads. The third one is tapered rolling. So by using a tapered element, mean the rolling element is a conical shape of element. So these bearings accommodate very high axial as well as radial loads, but they sustain a axial load in only one direction. The third one is needle roller bearing. So this is also a cylindrical roller bearing, but the cylinders, the rolling element, which are cylinders, are of very less diameter and very long. So there are like thin cylinders placed all over the bearing. So the advantage of needle roller bearing is they can sustain very high load, and they are mostly well suited for a location where the space is a concern. So if you have a very tight space between the shaft and the housing, you can go for needle bearing as they accommodate very less weight because these needles are very thin. So the next will be selecting the calculation. So suppose we have selected the type of bearing here, like deep groove, all those bearing we can select anyone which we require according to our application. Then we'll go for the dimensions. So like we can define particular dimension, like the shaft diameter is this much or the housing diameter is this much width of the bearing. We can define particular, or we can just define like range, like from this to this we can accommodate. So based on this, the SKF tool will give us the set of bearings available within those range. Like this we have inputted. So it gives like what are the bearings available in their catalog for this configuration of the sizes. Then after selecting the particular bearing which fits our dimensional constraint, we can go for the calculations. So the tool automatically calculates everything. We just have to select what parameters we want to have to compare to have a assessment of the bearing life, bearing properties. So which is the minimum load, viscosity, equivalent dynamic load, bearing frequencies, grease life and relubrication interval. So based on these things, the tool will automatically define what are the parameters for that particular selected bearings. So coming to the next step, which is defining the operating conditions. So we have to define like the radial force which will be coming to the bearing, the axial load, speeds at which the bearings will be rotating, the temperature, the inner ring, outer ring temperatures, like if our shaft is at hot, medium, so what will be the operating temperature. So based on that, it will define the bearing life and all properties. So then the operating condition, like environmental condition. So based on the environmental condition, like temperature, cleanliness of the environment, we have to select the lubrication for the bearings. So at this phase, we will select a lubricant which will be well suited for our environment as well as our application. And finally, after selecting these parameters, like we will use oil or grease, we'll use SKF grease or any other standard grease, cleanliness, environment, which type of environment is there during application. So after selecting these parameters, it will give us the parameters like everything bearing properties for this particular bearing which we have selected. So minimum load is this, which is required to fulfill the bearing requirement. Then viscosity of the bearing loads, grease life and re-lubrication interval, adjusted reference speed, static safety factor, bearing rating life, and etc. So all these parameters the tool will give us. So now we'll move for. So this is the designation of SKF bearing selection. So as we see that bearings have their numbers on it. So those numbers are designated numbers. So there are like 5 digits. So first 3 are bearing series. So in that the first letter indicates the type of bearing. This type of bearing is a deep groove bearing, cylindrical roller bearing, tapered roller bearing. What type of bearing it is? So it defines the number. So anyone, let's say we go for this number 1 bearing, which is deep groove double row bearing. Then the second and third number defines the width and diameter series of the bearing. So it defines like for 8 defines the lowest width, then it increases for 0, 1, 2, 3, and it defines the width of the bearing, which is coming to that series. And in case of thrust bearings, the parameter, the second digit which is there, defines the height of the bearing. Then third one is the diameter series. So what diameter series this belongs to is defined in there. And the last 2 digits define the shaft diameter. Like what will be the shaft diameter which will be accommodated in the bearing. So there are like standard with whatever the numbers are which represent shaft diameter. Apart from that, there are several exceptions. Like if the shaft diameter is 10 mm, it will be represented as 0, 0. If the 12 mm, it will be represented as 0, 1, like that. So there are some exceptions. Then these are the code. The first digit defines the codes. So like 0, this is double row angular contact ball bearing, like here. A second, the number is 1. So 1 is self-aligning ball bearing. Like this, we'll have to understand the code which is given by the SKF. And there is another standard which is Indian standards of defining a bearing. So their designation goes like, first there will be a prefix like IS, and the second thing will be a shaft diameter, which is 40 here. Third will be the bearing type, and the final will be the series type, which series does this belong to. Okay, so then we'll move for the tool. We'll see how it actually works. So this is the tool, SKF bearing select. So first we have to select which type of bearing do we use. Most of the cases we use rolling element bearing. So we'll go for a rolling element bearing. Then it asks what you want to have, a single bearing selection or a 2 bearing on a shaft. So depending on our requirement, if we have a specified arrangement, we can go for a particular 2 bearing on a shaft system. So currently we'll go for a single bearing. So here it comes, selection of bearing. So this is the bearing, like deep groove ball bearing, which we have already discussed. The insert bearing. So these bearings are like used in very rare applications where the bearing does not have to be in a particular housing. So they are easily removable and they are fixed by like a pin attachment. So we can just screw it onto the shaft. Then angular contact we have discussed, self-aligning ball bearing we have discussed. So all these type we have discussed already. So for understanding, we'll go for a simplest bearing configuration, which is deep groove ball bearing. So now here we have to define the inner diameter, the diameter of the inner race. There will be our shaft will be placed. So we can define like say 10 and the outer diameter of the bearing we can define, let's say 20. So the software say the search did not yield any results. So if we say like I need a 10 mm inner diameter and 20 mm outer diameter, so there are no bearings in that SKF catalog. So we will have to revise our design. So let's say we'll put 10 here again, and let's say here we put 30. Okay. So there are like multiple bearings which are available. So there are like 15 bearings, out of which we can select any one based on our requirement. So currently we have not defined our width of the bearing. This width of the bearing we have not defined. So we have defined 10 mm. So it again says ki, like there is no bearing with these dimensions and these width. So we have to again revise this thing. Okay. So in other way, what we can do is we can just define the ranges. Like we want to have an inner diameter from say 10 to 20 mm, and we want to have an outer diameter of let's say 30 mm to 50 mm, and width maybe of 10 mm to 20 mm. Okay. So like there are 157 bearings which falls in these ranges. So we can decide on which bearing we should select from the given catalog. So for the time being, we will select this. Let's say inner diameter is 15 mm, outer diameter is 35 mm, and the width of the bearing is 40 mm. Okay. Other things we can also look at is the load capacity, like dynamic load and static load factors. So we can go for like in this step we can define just thing ki, let's say these bearings are sufficient for our loading condition. If not, we can go for a higher load capacity also. Let's say go for it. So in this step, it asks for what calculation do we need to perform on this particular bearing. So we have selected the bearing which is 4202 ATN9. So we'll click on the select calculation. So there are several calculating factors which we can calculate from this tool, like minimum load requirement for the bearing operation, equivalent dynamic load, then grease life and re-lubrication interval, bearing rating life, static or safety factor, viscosity, bearing frequency, friction and power loss, and adjusted reference speed, fits and tolerances. So let's say we selected everyone, we just want to have a look how this tool works. So we have selected each and every parameter for calculation. So clicking on the next takes us to the new window. So these are our calculation which we have selected on the left, and this is the bearing which we are performing calculation on. So there is this thing which is showing the rotation of the bearing. So there can be two configuration. The first one can be like the outer race of the bearing is fixed, which is fixed in the housing, and the inner race is rotating. And in another configuration, we can have like inner race is fixed and the outer race is rotating. So based on the application, we can have these selected. Currently, it says that inner race is rotating and the outer race is fixed. After clicking on this shows like outer race is rotating and the inner race is fixed. And here we have to put the values of our radial forces and axial forces. So let's say we put 0.1 for now, 0.1 kilonewton of radial forces. Let's say we don't have an axial load. Let's put it 0. For RPM, let's say 500. And temperature, operating temperature, we can keep it just as it is because we don't have the exact values. So just clicking on the calculate. Okay. So after calculation, it gives us various parameters. So first is the bearing property. So this is the bearing which we have selected, which is a deep groove ball bearing. These are the principal dimensions, like ID, inner diameter is 15 mm, outer diameter is 35 mm, width is 14 mm. So these are the basic load ratings. So these are basic load ratings, like very basic. So based on the conditions, they can have a various effect. Like say these are the fatigue load, speed ratings. So in speed rating, there are two speeds. The first one is reference speed and the second is limiting speed. So the reference speed is defined by the ISO standards. So they test the ratings, test the bearings on a rated standard conditions. Based on that, they give this reference ratings. Like if we operate the bearing at that particular standard conditions, we can go for this much RPM. But the limiting condition says that we should not move beyond this point if we do not have those standard conditions. Let's say the second thing is minimum load. So the minimum load required for this bearing to work properly is 0.0185 kilonewton. So it also checks whether the minimum load requirement of the bearing is met or not. So we have earlier kept the radial load to be 0.1 kilonewton, and the minimum radial load required for the bearing operation is 0.0185. So it meets the requirement of the bearing. So it says requirement met, which is yes. Then coming to the viscosity. So these are the viscosities. So this is the actual viscosity of the bearing. This is the rated viscosity of the bearing, and this is rated at the standard conditions, which is 40 degrees centigrade and other also environmental conditions. These are the lubrication conditions for the viscosity. The next is bearing load. So we have defined like load of 0.1 kilonewton. So the load ratio for this bearing is 119. So we can extend this load. We have a scope for extending this load. Coming to the grease life and relubrication interval. So there is a grease life which defined by default. So we can change this conditions here. Edit default setting. These are operating conditions menu. So we can have edit default settings. So it opens lubrication and contamination two portfolios. So for lubrication, what we want to use, we want to have a grease, oil without filter or with filter. And the second thing is the lubrication specification method. So there are various specifications which are defined for the lubrication. So we can go for any one of, like we can go for ISO, we can go for viscosity at the rate 40. So SKF has its own grease specification. So this is a SKF bearing. So SKF grease is specially designed for these things. So we can go for SKF grease. So like after that, the lubricant which we want to have, like the SKF grease is also have various properties. So based on the application, like this one works on wide temperature ranges. This is high performance, low friction. Like various properties they have. Like they change the viscosity at various temperature ranges. Like our engine oils. So every engine oil can't be used everywhere. No? Like that only we have to use this lubrication carefully. Then coming to the contamination models. So we have to define the cleanliness of the operating condition. Like how clean is the environment where the application is being used. So it is whether it is highly clean or whether it is normal clean or severe contamination or slight type of contamination and very severe contamination. So based on the our environment, we can select which cleanliness parameter we should use. So closing this, coming back to the gradient. So say for this, we have selected like normal cleanliness environment. For normal cleanliness environment, the relubrication interval for the grease is 21,700 hours. So let's say if we choose another thing, we go for edit settings, normal cleanliness, we change to, let's say, severe contamination. Okay. Then say this relubrication interval has changed from 21,000 to 8,000. So how our environment is, we have to decide, and based on that our relubrication interval is changing, because the grease which we have placed in the bearing contaminates after some time. So this is the time which we get after every this interval. We have to change the lubricant, otherwise our bearing will wear off and it will make abnormal noise, and also there will be runouts and vibrations in the system. Then coming to the adjusted reference speed. So as I told you, the reference speed is defined by the ISO standards. So those are like defined on standard conditions. So if we change the condition, we have to consider the adjusted reference speed. So here it is like 38,400, which is adjusted reference speed, and this is our reference speed, which is 32,000. So we can see that the adjusted reference speed has increased from the reference speed. So we can conclude that we can go for a higher speed, but our loading capacity is, we have defined our load as 0.1 kilonewton. So let's say if we change the loader to some higher value, how does this value change? We'll see that. So let's say our radial load was 1 kilonewton in opposed to the 0.1 kilonewton. Let's calculate. So see, the adjusted reference speed has come down. It has come down to 32,400. Earlier it was around 38,000. So if we increase the load further, this speed will reduce further. So if we want to have a higher load capacities, we will have to compromise on the revolution of the shaft. Then coming to the next step, which is static safety factor. So earlier we have seen that in the bearing properties, our static safety factor is C naught is 7.5. So our safety factor, we have defined a load to be 1 kilonewton and it has 7.5. So static safety factor is 7.5 divided by 1, which is 7.5. Then coming to the bearing life. So this is the bearing life, which is calculated, which is basic bearing life. And if we modify the bearing life with SKF modification factors, which is A SKF being 0.15, so the bearing life reduces to 8,420 hours. So this is the thing which SKF's promise, like the bearing should will have this much of the life. Then coming to the frequencies. So this is the not very much related to the application part, but it is important, so we'll discuss a little bit about this. So in the bearing frequency, there are several frequencies which are important. So like say for rolling element about its axis. So at a particular point, how many rolling elements are passing that point? in a particular time in a per second basis, because it's in defined in hertz. So which defines the frequency. So let's say the rolling element and case set. So every second there are like 5 rolling element passing through a particular point in this bearing at a defined RPM. Okay, like this, every thing, there are major 4 parts in the bearing. The first one is the outer race, the inner race, the rolling element, and the caging element. So there are different frequencies which we can interpret from. So the other things are inner point on inner race. So if we place a particular point on an inner race, so how many rolling element are passing per unit time from that point defines the frequency of the inner ring. So like this, these are not important that much in the application regime, but they are there, so we have just discussed a little bit. Then coming to the friction. So as we all know, if we place any coupling between the two components, there will be a friction and there will be a power loss. So the SKF tool also calculates what will be the friction and the power loss due to the current loading condition in that particular bearing. So we can say that these are the frictional movement, which is this is the total frictional movement, and this is the frictional movement at the start, because in the start we have to exert a higher movement to start the bearing rolling. After it comes to the rolling state, the requirement for the movement becomes less. Then coming to the frictional sources, so they have also specified like how much frictional movement will be lost in what states. So the rolling friction movement, they have like 3.42 reading for sliding 130, and this bearing doesn't have seals, and so they are not defined as they are 0. Then the power loss, so there will be a 0.86 watt of power loss if we transmit any rotational component from bearings inner race to outer race. There will be a 0.86 watt of power loss. So these are the bearing parameters which we can select from the tool. Now, like we have already selected the bearing. This was our bearing. So for this particular bearing, these are the parameters which the SKF tool has calculated. Now we have to compare these parameters with our requirement and decide whether we want to go for this bearing or we should go for some other bearing. So at this stage, we will compare the requirement with these factors, and we will decide on whether to go for this bearing or not. Then after these parameters, let's click on to the next button. So here comes the fits and tolerances of the bearing. So as we have discussed that fits governs the operation of the bearing, because let's say we have defined a loose housing. So the bearing will slip and there will be a loss of the power which we are expected. So we have to decide which fit we should go for. Okay, so let's say this tool also enable us to have a standard fit recommendation. So we'll just click on the on button, which is, so it will define the standard fit. So there comes the load direction rotating ring. So if the load is rotating and the bearing is constant, so basically we have to keep the load as rotating load. If any of the thing which is like, let's say race of the bearing and the shaft, any either of them are stationary and the other one is the load is moving, then we will have to select the rotating one. Then it says, do we want to have a thermal expansion on or off? So as we have not defined very high temperature, so we will keep it off only. So they suggest that you go for housing as a loose fit, and the shaft is a transition fit. So they define like they suggest which fit you should use for the particular operation. And we go down in this menu. So this is the tolerance class of for the bearing, which is recommended tolerance class. So for shaft they recommend J5, and for housing they recommend H8. Then coming to the further down, so these are the tolerances, like further shaft outer diameter. So minimum how much tolerance you should give, and maximum what tolerances you should give. So if we want to use these parameters, we can just have a shaft or housing machine according to these fits. And then they give all the parameters, like shaft outer diameter, shaft inner diameter, which is same as bearing bore, bearing outer diameter, housing bore. So everything is there. So we have to design, we have to give dimensions to our shaft or housing, which we are going to use with this bearing according to these parameters. And this gives us a probable interference or clearance. Let's say if we go for these type of fit, the probable fit of the bearing with the shaft can be governed from this, like probable minimum diameter of the shaft. So we should go around -5 micron of tolerance, which is if it is in negative, which is shows the clearance, which we should reduce the material from the, and if it's positive, then it's interference. Okay, so based on this, we can have our design ready. And coming to the next, so here it gives everything in the compiled way. So every parameter is listed here. So we can just generate a report out of this, and we can use that for our reference. Okay, then this is it from my side. If you have any question. You guys have anything to ask, you can ask. Any questions? Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah. So is there any questions? Okay, then if we do not have any questions, we will stop here. Okay, then I think class is over now, so we can leave.
So you have any questions for this? So do you have any questions right now? Anything in bearings? Any other questions you guys have about the course or anything? We'll be happy to answer now. We still have a few minutes left. Okay. All have left, looks like. So guys, so I'm assuming you have no questions, nothing, right? I think all of you have left already, looks like. Let me stop the. Okay, so I've stopped recording.